This episode is brought to you by Audible. For a free 30-day trial and to receive a free audiobook, just head on over to audible.com/Gamebreaker. What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 33 of the Unicorn Duck Shadow Puppet. That is the WildStar show. What was I thinking when we named this show? I have no idea. I really don't know. I think we're going to change the name of this show. I'm being serious. I am. Anyway, we're going to talk about guilds. Carbine's got all the basics. Whole lot more. Lots of permanent content, unlike Guild Wars 2. And more. Jody says, always, Mr. Farhan Siddiqui. How are you?
Hey, good. Sorry about the lateness of the show this week. That's largely my fault, but
hey,
we got it in at least. We got something going this week.
It's Friday. We're doing a show live on Friday, but we got it in. Mark Taylor joining us as well.
What's up? Dominions represent.
You guys are like throwing signs already for Dominion?
Gang signs.
Seriously. Gang signs for Dominion. All right, so some of the stuff we talk about in this show might be a little old just because there's been new information that's come out since then, but we're going to have another show on Monday, so double up on the shows. So we'll talk more about stuff, so we're going to hold some stuff back. But let's talk about guilds because Carbine talked a lot about guilds this past week. So first of all, they bullet pointed all the basics starting with how creating a guild, which I believe is fairly important. I might be wrong about that, Mr. Mark Taylor, but I think it's pretty important.
Heck yeah.
But what'd you think from what you saw though? Give me an overview from guild management standpoint.
So I'm kind of in a weird position because I was able to see some of the mechanics before they announced it. But long story short, it is simplified in the way that they did it. They didn't make it overly arduous, and they didn't make it one of these things where you've got to have too many resources. I think you have to have a minimum of 4 to 5 people. They also made it something where you just need to go there and you only need to have one person physically there. Remember how many MMOs you actually had to have all 10 of your people physically?
Oh god, that's just annoying.
Put your hands in the circle.
I don't know whoever thought that was a good mechanic. You gotta get everybody together. No.
Exactly. So instead of having to have all your people physically there to right click or whatever, you can have one person create the guild. An interesting mechanic is you need to have so much influence, which you can get easily if you just get a 5-man group and you level together up to, I think it's 12 or 13. I think they're tweaking which level it's going to be, but let's just say for the sake of argument it's 14. Very simple to do if you group together to get that amount of influence, because that's pretty much the metric or the currency that you generate by grouping together. One public service announcement for WildStar: make sure you group together. Not necessarily like EverQuest, where it's just impossible to level without a group. It's just so much more fun to level with a group. I mean, I think that goes without saying, but I can say that if you level alone, you can do it, but it's just gonna be like a repeated kick in the junk. So, if you level together with a good group, or you do Group Finder, it will be a very easy task to gain that amount of influence. You go to the area, which I believe is in Ilium, and you don't really need anything other than that influence as the currency to pay for the guild, unlike another sci-fi based MMO, in which case you needed ridiculous sums of coin to pretty much do anything. So I love it for that fact alone. I mean, we can go back and forth, I guess, on question and answer on different mechanics, but I mean, they've got more that I've seen in beta, I guess closed beta, or NDA approved, than I've seen in most modern MMOs out for the last 5 years. I mean, and the mechanics work.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of things that are already in game that just there are a lot of games, a lot of MMOs struggle to get some of this stuff in early on. Mark, if you can turn your mic up a little bit, that'd be good.
Sure.
But I mean, guild banks in there with renamable tabs, withdrawal limits, repair limits, I mean, these are things a lot of MMOs struggle to get this stuff in at launch, but I mean, it's to run a very large, a good guild properly. This stuff is like a necessity at launch.
Test. Is that better?
Yeah, I think so. I think it might be a little bit better. They've even got optional guild taxes.
Yeah, that's the thing that I've been looking for the most since I've been playing MMOs as a guild leader, actually having my own guild. Because one thing that we created in the last couple of MMOs that came out was like a donation system or like an internal guild tax, in which case you assign somebody to ask for money, and that's just a pain in the butt. By having an internal tax system, regardless of actually really the amount, people just never see it being taken from them, so they never miss it.
Yep.
Whereas like every Friday on the if you have to turn in like 1,000 gold or whatever, that just pisses people off. So even though the quantity might be much less, they just didn't like it because they were thinking about it the whole time. So that's great. The fact that they have a guild bank like day one, which most MMOs you have to wait for the first God patch like a month out. I mean, it's just amazing.
What are you guys going to charge? What kind of percentage are you going to charge?
I mean, right now the default seems to be good, which I believe
right?
is 5%. Yeah. So I'm not sure if I saw an ability to change it. I'm sure that if it's not there, it'll come. But the point is 5% is pretty good because even in beta with the limited amount of folks that we've had, there's more than enough money to buy anything that's needed, at least at this point. Given the level cap that currently exists.
And guilds need this. Farah, are you doing guild? What guild do you do? I don't even know what you're doing, but are you gonna go?
Yeah,
I'm sure some people. You're with Umbra.
Yeah. Yep.
So you're just gonna have to deal with it.
Just wrote me in.
Give up your 5%. Let's go. I got stuff to buy. Yeah, no, I agree. Like some older school MMOs used to have stuff like this, and it actually was great because, like you said, you don't have to think about it, and just sort of like you don't feel as bad probably as a guild leader as well, saying like, hey, it's just being a part of this guild. It's mandatory, 5%, everyone across the board. It's there's no favoritism. There's no question if people are skimming or if people aren't paying. Who's buddies with Mark? Oh, Farhan's not paying. He's probably not paying. I probably got to pay for him. So
20%.
It's nice. It's nice that they're gonna have that stuff, just to for repairing raid buffs, all that kind of stuff that guilds need to pay for. That's it for the basic features. The next thing is kind of unique to WildStar though, so no more tabards. Which one is this here? So this is a prototype. Obviously, it's labeled as such, but you're going to be able to holographically project your guild emblem above you. Check that out. Coming out from all above. It's above you, around you, all over. So that's pretty cool. Now, how customizable? I mean, see, you're looking at this thing. It says Guild Hollow Work, and you've got background, foreground, and scan lines. How customizable is this going to be?
It's pretty robust. Now they've tweaked it since we started playing, and I haven't gone back to it in the last month. But long story short, there are about 5 major areas that you can tweak. You can tweak like the background. You can tweak like an emblem that will sit on the background. I guess that's the foreground. And then you can tweak like a perimeter kind of design that goes around it. So long story short, it's pretty customizable. As of right now, you're not allowed to upload your own personalized guild emblem.
That's what everybody's going to ask.
Yeah. Right. And
what's the TTP on that though?
Yeah,
I think
what
that is, right?
I think it'll
the
come.
TTP? Do you know about the TTP, the time to penis? That's how long it takes.
I didn't know that that's what that was, but I knew that was what they're trying to avoid, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you have it like projected over your head, like very clearly way up here.
What guild are you in? We're in a bunch of giant dicks. That's what we're in.
So a couple things. I mean, what the heck is that? Terra Online. They did have the ability to upload your own emblem. So I remember playing that game and having the little Umbra logo, the little U. And I thought that was really amazing. I hadn't seen anything like that before, and then obviously they put this in there, and I think it'll be a matter of time before they put something in there, and it'll probably be something where you have to submit it and get it approved, and then it'll unlock. I just see that
Really?
being,
You think they're going to go down that right? That's a lot of. I feel like that's a lot of maintenance. Like, could you imagine the amount of images they have to have like human beings sit there and look at that stuff? I kind of don't see them going that route.
So I mean, I guess is the answer, right? I mean, they might not ever do it, depending on how they're going to fill out their community team. But a lot of the big MMOs will have the non. Of course, my phone rings. The non-resident.
Hello. Hello.
So the non-resident. A lot of these AAA MMOs will have the non-resident. As I destroy my phone. Non-resident CMs, right? So there'll be people who live all across the country who will offset. And a lot of times they'll do things like be the forum moderators or do more basic tasks. But this is something that they could probably make either a full-time duty or a side task to a volunteer. Remember back in the day when they used to have, GMs, which were essentially players who do in-game support for like maybe 5 hours a week, in which case now they get to get their account paid for.
What's the last game that did that though?
So the last one I know of was Age of Conan. That was the last one I know that did it. But anyway, long story short, it's one of those things that you just get an email and you look at it and it could be done. I don't want to belabor the point, but long story short, Terra did it. Hopefully they'll have something like this where you can do it. But even if you don't, they have enough creative things that you can get something that gets your message across. So, for example, our guild in game has got the hammer across like a weird shield in the background, so it's kind of like a Lord Hammer or whatever. So people who are in Umbra, they understand the pun, they get it, right? But the reason why it's so important, at least to me, is I'm one of those people who kind of gets like tunnel vision when I'm playing, and so when I group with Farhan, I'm like, okay, where am I going next? Just tell me what to shoot at. He's the one who's reading what's going on with the quest, right? And so, like, as long as I can just find his little crest above his head or whatever, I know where I'm supposed to be going. Or if we're in PvP, when you've got just a Zerg going on, it's really awesome to be able to just look and find your crest and know, okay, I need to go over there and support that guy. It just makes life so much simpler because you can kind of tune out the BS and just focus on what's really important.
Yeah, I mean, I guess another thing I'm just speculating here, what they could do, which I've seen other games do that would work quite well, is give you some sort of, maybe for one, give you some sort of multi-layer system, almost like a mini Photoshop, and then just give you all just a standard square, circle, triangle.
Yeah, but the thing is, whenever you have that, then the TTP is just like an hour.
That's true. That's true. It just delays the TTP. It really does. You're right. Yeah, they might not do it. I don't know. Who knows? You think they'll do it, Farhan? You think they'll open it up and actually let you upload stuff?
I don't think that they'll open it up to uploading, just because the number of man hours that they would have to put into actually like monitoring it. I think that they would rather put that into some other guild features or some other events or whatever. Yeah. The one thing I really do like about the little holographic projection, so like I never actually liked the tabards in other games because they would always cover up the chest armor, and I actually like to look at the armor, but I like that you could customize exactly where you place it. So in that screenshot they had it above the head and then like to the left and right shoulder and behind you, and that actually, like, as your character turns and runs and does motions, they rotate with like the joints. They're like attached to the 3D model. So it's not just like a flat 2D graphic that's always facing you or whatever. But one thing that I did like is that you could customize like not only like how like those 4 positions, you can customize any combination of them. So you can only have it above you, or you can only have it on your right hand or whatever. And then also like how close it displays to your model. So you can have it like sort of way out there, like it's shown in that screenshot, or you can have it pretty close to the body where it looks almost like a patch on your gear. And I thought that looked pretty cool. So I like that they let you customize exactly where it goes. That way, if you have a cool piece of armor that has like a little effect on it, you don't necessarily have to, cover it up. And you could say, okay, well, my back looks cool on this piece of armor. I'm gonna not show the back one. I'm gonna show the arm ones or whatever. And so yeah, it's really nice that our team actually put in that effort to do that.
So Carbine has said, so basically, just so we got some numbers here, they said there's 65 inner and 65 outer designs for launch. which basically is going to give you about 4,200. Well, it is going to give you 4,225 combinations. So combinations are quite endless. I would imagine you might start seeing some stuff that looks kind of similar to this. Hopefully, we'll get some more new. Maybe good. Maybe that actually might not be bad for microtransactions, right? Maybe pay for some like unique custom artwork for the holograms. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah,
There's always options.
Who's going to spend the time to figure out how to come up with one of those 4,025 options to make it look like a P for the TT?
Probably somebody will. But I wonder if they would go that route and actually do a microtransaction to do the upload, and then they can actually offset the cost of somebody actually doing it. That would be interesting. You know,
take my money.
Pay a small transaction and get your logo upload. There you go. Do it. Let's see. So this was a pretty awesome quote, though, from the EU community manager. Guild Perks says, on a more personal note, in response to the concerns that people will only group with guildmates, is that such an issue? Firstly, pugs will always exist, as not all guildies will be on, and not all will want to do the same content. This is, secondly, MMOs are social, and whilst a pickup group out in the world is okay, it's very easy for the social side to end once one person logs off. A guild is much more persistent and helps forge great friendships as well. So they obviously want you to be in a guild. Very much so.
Well, it's not just that they want you to be in a guild. That's sort of addressing, I think, the point of like having the Zerg guilds that just invite everyone, and then like you sort of progress that way. That happened a lot in World of Warcraft, where like the second you log on, you're invited to like a guild until you turn it off, or you actually get into a guild if you're on an ungilded character. Just because, you know, just being online and doing quests and whatever, that progressed the guild. Even if you weren't actually doing anything with another guildmate, it still progressed those perks, and it earned those things, and it got them, you know, the money and stuff. I guess you would still get the guild tax in WildStar if you had like a Zerg guild like that, but you're not going to actually earn influence that you use to, you know, take advantage of the perks, like the extra PvP experience or whatever it is that you're going to end up buying with the perk system. You actually have to be grouping with your guildmates, and that was something that I actually really liked, is that, you know, instead of it being optimal to have just a giant guild, you even like a smaller guild that's actually tight knit and is consistently playing together, they're going to actually progress their guild way faster than just a Zerg guild that barely ever groups together. They're just basically like a chat room. You know, they're effectively the same as a circle. And so at that point, you know, you should be playing with your group mates if you actually want to earn that influence. And
yeah,
that's
guild
cool.
influence is going to earn you a ton of things to unlock. So you're going to be able to get more bank space, single player summoning, guild wide buffs, consumables, etc., which sounds like almost everything that players want. Anything you guys notice anything missing in there that you might be looking for a guild?
I mean, not as of right now. I mean, things seem to be pretty robust, even down to the customization of, you know, if you talk about just guild banks, you know, being able to give different levels of folks permissions to, you know, put things into the bank, to take things out of the bank, to make sure that only the right amount of folks are able to access it. I mean, they've even got it down to the point where you can, relative to your rank or your permission group, you can actually pay for repairs for, like, you know, raiding or dungeons or whatever out of the guild bank vice, out of your personal pocket, right? That's pretty awesome.
Do we know anything more about the guild-wide buffs? There's 6 guild-wide buffs, right? You can unlock. It's a pretty large cost to unlock them, but it should be only once cost, and then to activate them, there's a smaller cost of influence when they last like 7 days. But do we know anything else about them? Like, can we stack them or anything like that?
I believe you can stack them. I'm pretty sure that they didn't like that. You know, if a buff was major enough, then people in the guild would be sort of clashing against each other, like, no, I want the PvP buff, no, I want the crafting buff, or whatever. And if they were so minor that it didn't matter, then, you know, what was the point? So I think that they want it to actually be able to be stackable.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but the thing is it doesn't really appear that it's that hard to earn the influence to get them either, because you know, I would see things unlock looking at the guild management system, which again, relative to most of the MMOs that I've played over the last 5 years, it's fairly robust. It's a very simplistic UI, but it's very robust in its capability. And so you can unlock them both horizontally and vertically. So horizontally, it's all the different things you can unlock within the tier that you're at. And so, one might be like, and I'm totally screwing this up because I can't remember the order, but let's just say, for example, you can call a box that will give you X amount of more XP generation or influence generation. And there's tiers, and then if you get enough influence, then you can unlock the next tier. And then you can also use that to unlock levels of influence to unlock different tabs of your bank. So instead of having to go out and grind for coin to buy gold or whatever to buy these things, you're now being motivated and you're being rewarded to do things as a guild so that you can earn the influence as the currency to do those things. So I mean, it's just well thought out, and it makes all the things that you're doing together as a guild worth something. There's value in it that you can immediately get. It's not one of these things that's like, you're chasing the dragon if you're a drug addict. Like you're never gonna reach that cool thing ever again. You're seeing immediate benefits along the way, and like I said, within the tier you're at, and then you get enough, you can unlock another tier and then get other cool things as you progress. So the people that are working on the guild management system have actually paid attention to all the other guild management systems that are out there, tweaked it a little bit, but then given you something that actually provides value, so you don't feel like you're just grinding for nothing or you're working forever for something that's like Farhan just said, that's such a minimal buff that you're like, why did I even bother? Like it's stuff that makes it feel like it's worth it, and because it's that influence currency, right, that rewards you for grouping, you never even feel like you're grinding because you're going to level anyway. If you're doing group content, you're getting XP, you're getting your rewards, you're getting your money. So all of that influence stuff is like, that's just gravy, so you don't feel like you're grinding out anything. You just are getting rewarded for grouping, which is what MMOs are about in the first place, in my opinion.
I do want to note, like off of that screenshot that we just were showing, where it shows some of the perks, that one of the things that they had on there was the guild member limit, so how many people are allowed to be in the guild. The day that article went up, some people were tweeting at Team WildStar, and they took that feedback and they were like, okay, we're just, from day one, we're going to have guilds open up to 500 players. So you don't have to actually unlock that anymore. I just wanted to mention that was something that they took the feedback and they're like, yeah, you're right. We'll just let everyone have those 500.
So guilds start out with a cap of 500 is what you're saying, right? From the get-go.
Right.
That's a good move. That's a good move. Is a cap of 500 enough to start?
I think to start probably, but the thing is if you're like a lot of guilds, most people have at least one or two alts, right? So really that's only 250 or 100 or so slots if you really think about it, because most people want their alt in the guild. I mean, I guess I'll just leave it there, but I mean, that's really the point. So if most people have like 2 or 3 alts, that's really not 500, I guess is the point, right?
All right, we'll move on to talk about this Gaffney talking up a bunch on the Reddits. But first, I want to tell you guys about a great deal we got going on with Audible. If you guys have not checked out Audible, I want you to hook you up with a free 30-day trial and a free audiobook. All you got to do is go to audible.com/Gamebreaker. That's the URL you want to use. Go sign up, make an account, download the app, put it on your iOS or Android device, and pick a free book, and you're off. Pick the classic today. It's another great book. Starship Troopers. Fantastic classic sci-fi book. Check it out. Let's actually give it a little listen.
Jenkins left us, looking sad and mad. And I felt bad, too. Because of the lieutenant buying it, last drop, and people moving up, I was assistant section leader, second section, this drop. And now I was going to have a hole in my section and no way to fill it. That's not good. It means a man can run into something sticky, call for help, and have nobody to help him. Jelly didn't downcheck anybody else. Presently he stepped out in front of us, looked us over, and shook his head sadly. "What a gang of apes," he growled. Maybe if you'd all buy at this drop, they could start over and build the kind of outfit the lieutenant expected you to be.
Check it out today, Starship Troopers. That could be one of your free books. There's a ton of other great sci-fi, a lot of classics, though. I'd highly recommend Starship Troopers, though. So just go over to audible.com/Gamebreaker, sign up, make an account. You're going to get to not only get a free 30-day trial, you're also going to get to choose a free book. There you go. Free book, free 30-day trial. All right, so next up, Gaffney. Jeremy Gaffney made some words over on the Reddits this week. First up, he had this to say. So the only content off the top of my head that we intend to go puff is seasonal events at the moment. It's not beyond us to have some temporary timed access to something. Could be fun in moderation. But our post-launch plans are almost entirely built around new stuff that sticks around. Battlegrounds, raids, outdoor areas, yada. We try to focus most on content drop efforts on solo players, since they consume content faster than, say, BGs or raids, which are built to be repeatable over time. But the goal is that everyone gets some lovin' over time. New type of content called Yada. Sounds amazing. I've never heard this one. Have you heard about Yada? No, seriously. No, this is great. I mean, I don't know what you guys thought of the Guild Wars 2 style of content. They did a lot of temporary content that came in and went out. I think some people, it's almost 50-50 where some people really like that concept of things coming in and things leaving and some really sticking around. But where do you guys sit? Are you happy to hear that a lot of the content is gonna have a permanent home?
Guild Wars 2's living story stuff. For me, it was like back in the days of watching television shows without having like a DVR or whatever to record it for you, where you'd be like sort of like hanging on, you'd be like, okay, I'm following it, and then you miss like 1 or 2 episodes, and you're like, okay, I just don't care anymore. Like now that I've missed it and it's gone, I'm like off the train, whatever. I don't. That's how it was for me at least. It's just like, let me at least be able to get back to it. That way I can get rehooked into the gameplay, get back into it at my own pace instead of just feeling like, oh, I missed out. Well, whatever. Now that I've missed out on one thing, it's no big deal for me to miss out on another one and so forth. So I'm a big fan of having permanent content that you can continue to, play in and explore, at your own pace rather than having to have this time limit. You're like, oh, crap, it's going to go down tomorrow. I better, run the dungeon or whatever.
What do you, Mark?
So I hate to be like in the middle on it, because I like the standby stuff that is always there, especially when you're rolling alts, and I think that's really where it's important for me, because on my first tune when I'm trying to get to rating, I'm trying to burn through as much stuff as I can, which I wasn't really like that until like the past years, but I like the idea of when you're rolling alts to have something that's new that may or may not be there. So like having, repeatable content, especially if it's like these small short things like Guild Wars 2, I thought that broke up the monotony, right? I like the go-to, I like the solid stuff that is there, just because it feels like home. But I do like that short content because it helps the devs come up with new content relatively quickly. It's a faster turnaround for new content. And so if they have like 12 or 13 ones that they can put in, that just breaks up the monotony of the leveling of the alt. So, I mean, I can take it both ways, but I do kind of like the fact that it can get added. Now, if it's a requirement, like remember SWG when you were at the village, if it's a requirement to make it to level X, Y, or Z, then yeah, that could suck real bad.
Are you guys scared at all by the statement? I know some people raise a little bit of an eyebrow with this statement says in regards to focusing most content drops on solo players. People are like, this sounds a little scary.
Well, I think that it just plays into, the statistics that they had quoted before that, 65% or 60% of players are solo players. They're not actually even doing the group content. They're just consuming that solo content. And Stephen Frost, I don't remember exactly what his title is. He's a producer of some sort. I don't know, executive producer or whatever. But anyway, he's one of the big producer guys. You know Stephen Frost. Everyone knows him. He just won the PvP thing. Anyway, he just did an article on Gamasutra where he was talking about like some of the challenges and that he had with WildStar, as a producer and leading that. what he was talking about, especially like one of the goals, and I'm sure that this is pretty common with any MMO. Whenever you're expecting to have to continually create a lot of content, that you would have these templates so that you could quickly push out content, with some speed and regularity. But that was like a huge priority for them with WildStar, that they knew that they were going to need to be able to create this solo content, this small group content that's compelling, and getting it out there very quickly. And so it sort of eased my mind a little bit, just having that article that I read like at the same time as hearing this quote. This is like, okay, well, this is just sort of their part of their plan, that they're just going to continue to keep rolling out the content at the same pace. Basically the pace that they've been creating content to lead up to launch, they're just going to keep rolling with that. They have teams set up to continually churn out that solo content, the elder story, whatever. How we don't know all the details of exactly how the solo group or the solo instance content is going to work, but whatever it is, they're going to be able to continue to make those new zones. Like we heard that quote recently too, that they're going to have like new zones coming into the game post launch as well. Basically, their production schedule is set up so that they can continue to do this in a way that it would sort of lead off of what their pre-launch development schedule was. And so I'm not really that worried about it, that it's like, oh, they're gonna like leave Battlegrounds hanging, or they're gonna leave whatever else hanging. I think that it's just they are really set, like, okay, they knew from the start that we need to have Elder Game set, we need to have this stuff set, but we also need to have the follow through. Like, we can't it's like two things really. You have to have the Elder Game so that when the players get there really, really quickly, then you have to have something for them to do when they get to the end game. But also, you have to have that follow through. So you have the production schedule, everything set up so that you can continue to produce that content in a regular way that people can then on a month to month or 2 months or whatever their schedule ends up being, have this new content coming in for people to keep playing. And so yeah, that's I think what that means.
Mark, what do you expect their kind of delivery to be? ArenaNet really kind of upped their game when they started doing like insane content patches every 2 weeks, which was nuts, and stuck to it. You think we'll see something similar to WildStar?
I really think that that's probably what we could expect, if for no other reason than the fact that it's under the NCSoft umbrella. So I'm assuming and Jeremy Gaffney has gone across, to my knowledge, most of those different studios. So I'm assuming that they share information in terms of like best practices. So I would assume that they would do something very similar. If not, then I think that they're gonna they'll probably do something like at least quarterly, as opposed to, was it ArenaNet or somebody who was talking about trying to get something like almost to a weekly kind of content update. And that was and to go off on a tangent slightly, to this point, this was one of the things that Jeremy Gaffney spoke about at E3 last year. Remember when I was telling you months ago about how he spoke to a bunch of South Korean journalists?
Yeah.
He was speaking about this topic specifically in terms of they're looking at, or they didn't commit, but what they said is they were looking at and they were investigating the models. So you wouldn't be looking and investigating the models to try to figure it out if you weren't going to plan to do it, right? So I guess that's the best answer I can give you in terms of what I expect, but what I think they're going to do as well.
I think that Gaffney recently said something, or maybe not recently, but when he was talking about this kind of stuff, he was saying that like in development, their big like push schedule, that they sort of have like these big patch pushes kind of thing, that they're like setting up their production standpoint, so that they're like almost in training for how they'll be post launch. But I think that they said that currently, or at the time, they were around 6 weeks per big push. And they wanted to work that down to around 4, but who knows if that'll end up being down. And I'm sure that WildStar, the way the development's been going. Remember that they were saying that they were going to be hoping to get the game out last year, but then ended up getting delayed. I think that they're going to also if something needs polish or something needs a little bit more work or whatever, even going forward with the regular patches, they're going to delay it like a week or two or whatever they need to. I doubt that there's going to be something where they're like, no, we have to meet it every single 4 weeks or whatever. But I would expect that it would be around 4 to 6 weeks, just based off of what they've been saying, and based off of what even we can stream 1 to 15 content, but they saw that 1 month later we got this new patch even in beta. So we've got this rollout. We see that what they're preparing to do and what they probably plan to do. I wouldn't expect to see like a new PvP thing and a new PvE thing and a new raid every single month or whatever, but I would expect at least one of those 3 categories between solo, raid, and PvP probably around every 4 to 6 weeks.
Farhan Siddiqui, follow him on the Twitter at Unindel, UNINDEL, and of course right here on UDSP, which normally airs on Mondays. And we have another show coming up this Monday as well, so stay tuned. Right around the corner. Shooting this on Friday, doing another one on a Monday. Mark Taylor, follow him on Twitter at Guild Umbra, GUILDUMBRA. The Guild Umbra represent. You can follow me at Gary Gann. Follow Gamebreaker TV, Gamebreaker TV. We do the show live on Mondays at 3, so come on over for the live show. It's always a good time, and have a great weekend. We'll see you in another UDSP on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody.